And we're live. We're back on another show of Ascent. It's Thursday, July 16th, 2020, 9 p.m. Eastern. And we're super excited tonight because we have Jerry Fetta in the house, CEO of Wealth Dynamics. And he's based guys out of Alaska. It's the first time we've had a guy from Alaska or gal on the show. But he's coming to you tonight from LA. And man, Jerry, he's been doing this for 8 years. He's got an incredible story. The knowledge and wisdom this guy provides to families and businesses about their financial power and ability to generate wealth is just so fresh and different. And you'll see what I mean when we get into talking with things. But I brought him on tonight because this is a guy that I've been watching, everybody that I bring on, guys, I vet, we trust, we watch their content, and Jerry's got some sick content, and I can't wait to have him share some of that with you tonight. So without further ado, Jerry, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, James, for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Good to see you. Good to see you. We've been back and forth for a long time, and sometimes this show is the first thing that brings us together. So that's what's cool about this.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, it's a pleasure to be on. I'm excited to talk tonight.
Awesome to have you. So you run, you're the CEO, Jerry, of Wealth Dynamics. Tell us a little bit more about what you do.
Yeah, so I help people do, a couple of main things. The first thing that I focus on is I help families and individuals just simplify their money. It's a very complex and convoluted topic. So I help people just kind of settle it down, simplify it. Because at the end of the day, all of it is just math, right? So if it's complex, let's go back to it's basic math. Let's keep that as a stable point. So we do that, and then really once that groundwork is laid, I help people keep more of the money they're making. Historically, top 1% save 40% of their income. The other 99 can't, because we're giving at least that much to financial institutions, banks, Wall Street, the IRS. So we kind of help people keep more of that so they can actually start building with it. Mm-hmm. And then the final thing I do for people is I help them build passive income that creates wealth for them now. So we're not doing the wait till 60 game. This is let's get this done in 10 years so we can go enjoy life.
That sounds awesome. Do you guys like the sound of this? Dude, this has been 60 seconds. I'm already in love with this show. This sounds great. So, I noticed that about what you talk about, and what's great about you, man, is you're so consistent, and you show up online a lot and just give great value, and it's very teaching style approach to what you do, because you kind of have to be with numbers. You make numbers fun, which is not easy to do.
Yeah.
But you do it. But I noticed one of the things you do talk about is paying yourself first, right?
Right.
Is that, now I've noticed that principle come from another popular, with entrepreneurs. A lot of entrepreneurs know profit first as a method. Is that similar to that, or what's your approach?
I've heard of the book so many times. I've never read Profit First. Okay. But it's the idea that, and I get it from the top 1%. There's a chart that I saw when I was probably, 22, 23 years old. And it showed savings rates. It showed by wealth class, the percentage of gross income, meaning pre-tax income, being saved. And it showed it from 1913 till 2016, I believe. And it showed the top 1% and then the next 9% of wealth and then the bottom 90% of wealth. The trend I noticed, James, is the top 1%, they save 40% of their gross income, off the top.
Wow.
So there's a lot of pay yourself first, profit first. And that's probably great concepts and stuff. But I just looked at the chart and I was like, that's it. That's what I need to do. This is the linchpin right here.
It's interesting because and I think we follow some similar circles, but another person that talks about those types of numbers is Grant Cardone.
Yeah.
Right? On his shows, he talks about saving 40%, and that sounds like insanity, because you don't usually hear that in most circles that you talk to. That's a lot of money.
It is. It is.
So how in the heck do you do that?
Yeah. So it's kind of, that's almost always what happens. I tell someone that, and then they're just bewildered, eyes this big, that's impossible. You can't do that. So the first thing I ask is, what's your car payment? How much you pay in taxes last year? How much you giving to Wall Street right now? What are you paying for insurances? Like, what are you paying on your mortgage? Because that's why most people can't save 40%.
Right.
I can't save 40% because I'm freaking giving 60 to banks, the IRS, and Wall Street.
Yeah.
And somehow, James, they convinced me pay myself first really means pay them first. I don't know how they did that, but they did that.
They're pretty good at that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, and you're right, because I mean, it's scheduled, right? On a month. Here you go.
Yeah.
Money comes in and it goes right back out.
And it's all automated. The IRS when I was W-2, I remember when I was 18, I was working at a pizza job. I get my first paycheck there, and I thought I made like $1,000 or something, right? And I get my check and it's like $800. And I didn't have the concept of like, wow, they're going to take the taxes before I get paid. And it's the same way of like pay myself first. If the IRS knows my behavior well enough to do that, I need to use the same tactic, but for my benefit instead.
Mm-hmm. So is it, if we're all looking at our bills right now as you're talking about this, and we're like, I don't get it. This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you talk about maybe controlling and restructuring some of your expenses.
Mm-hmm.
Is that part of it?
That is part of it. That's a very entry level part. You've got to have the expenses, but before that, you've got to have income as well. So that's another component.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, obviously to do that, you probably have to make more money, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah. And I would say and I work with people so often on like helping them actually do their finances. And my opinion is that it's 10 grand a month minimum to be able to save 40%. You know, a family in a moderately expensive area, like kind of average, needs to make at least 10 grand. And that's if they've got like no extra expenses.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, and it depends on where you live too, right? Like it might be one thing in middle America, but if you're on the coasts, you know.
Oh yeah. LA.
Yeah. LA.
Yeah. No way in LA.
Yeah. Maybe you might need 20.
Yeah. Maybe more.
Maybe more.
There's really no way to know.
Yeah. The taxes are crazy. I'm in New Jersey, and the taxes here in some places are insane. It would just blow your mind of what you pay in property taxes here.
Yeah.
So cool. So you help people and families and businesses, you know, think differently about their approach to business and money in that relationship. Because it's also important in business too. I mean, we talk about cash flow on this show a lot, about how to just structure your business in a more sound way so that you're going to be in business for a long time. So is there differences in your approach to personal and business?
There are some. The main difference and there's a lot of the same mindsets, right? The main difference in behavior and application is the business has a lot more frequency in transactions typically. And so there's a lot more planning and control that has to go into that. So then I don't want to say it's more complex, because really it's not. If you have it organized, it's not complex. But surface level, if someone sees like a business's books versus someone's budget, the business always looks more confusing. So there are some differences, and it's just a little bit more like control and you know, higher frequency levels on checking things and transferring things. But that really is one of the main differences. And the only other big difference I see with a business is that there's a difference between a profit and loss and a cash flow statement. A lot of people don't know that. My profit and loss has absolutely no correlation with how much money I made and kept.
Yep, exactly. You start to learn that when you do your taxes, like this doesn't feel the same as what happened this year.
Yeah.
So, dude, I watch your stuff, and you post some really cool results too. Tell us about like the most fun result you've had in the last 6 months with the type of work you do. What are some cool outcomes you've been able to help families and businesses with? Oh
man, there's so many. So here's one of the first ones I just thought of. I have a client that he's 19 years old in New York. Right. And his grandpa gave him, I think, 60 grand in a trust. He had it in mutual funds. He bought my book. We got on a call with him. My team helped him out, and we kind of started just educating him on like the basics. Yep. And after about 3 months of working with them, we got him out of the market literally in January. The market crashed in February. So
Mhm.
we got him out of the
Good
market in
timing.
January. Super good timing.
Yeah.
And I can't even say like I knew, like I always know the market's going to crash. I never know when exactly it's going to happen. So it's just like hey, this is probably going to be something that happens soon. Let's get you out. And then I ended up putting him into a deal that pays him passive income. So he's 19 years old, almost no debt. I think his only debt is his car payment. He's about to knock that out as well. And he's going to self-finance that with his life insurance. And he's got freaking $500 a month in passive income. And I know adults in their mid 40s that they have zero passive income. And this kid is 19 years old. And that gets me excited because you can just see the projection. If he continues doing that, by the time he's 60, his entire family legacy is different.
Absolutely. Well, yeah. I mean, with that kind of cash flow and that revenue stream, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it? I know life insurance is one of the vehicles you really like for building passive income, and I've got some buddies that do that too, and I'm playing in that space. It makes sense if you do it right. There's different vehicles. Some aren't good. Some are good.
A lot aren't good.
A lot aren't good. A lot aren't good. So how do you get started with all this, man? Because it just seems, a lot of people, like you said, don't even get the chance to get educated on this because you never hear this kind of language or conversation in a lot of circles. So you almost have to stumble across it just to even find out about it.
Yeah, it's very like as I've been in it more, it's definitely like its own community, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you can get on Facebook, and if you friend enough of the right people, you're all of a sudden in the the 10x community or the cash flow community or the Robert Kiyosaki community or whatever it is. And this is kind of its own community as well of people that really do understand the truth about money. Oh, dope! That's my client Eric. Eric has paid off a ton of debt with us.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
He was negative 300 a month in cash flow 18 months ago. Like his budget, he was spending more than he was making. And I've got him saving $1,500 per month right now in his sacred account.
That's awesome.
But the dude's a beast. He did everything we said. Just we gave him the map and he followed it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thanks for the shout out, Eric.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations. That's really cool, man.
To get this kind of data though, like you either have to like accidentally stumble into it and be open-minded enough to be like, oh shoot, everything I thought about money might not be true. And not a lot of people are like that. I was like that because I was in it. And so the other thing that happens is you may know somebody that's in it that when I learned this, I just had it on my heart. Like I have to tell people this. I can't in good conscience know this and not share it with people and help them. And so you'll see people that are kind of just like almost the minister of finance. Like they'll pull you aside and share it with you if you're willing to listen to them. Yeah. And that's the great thing is a lot of times like they're not even in it for money. The guy that started sharing all this with me, he was my best friend's dad. I've known him since I was 12. And when I tried to sell him mutual funds when I first started, he didn't buy. And he said, hey, when you're ready to learn how money really works, come talk to me. That was it. And it went 6 years went by before I talked to him. Yeah. Right. So it's definitely a thing that has to be sought after.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. One direction I wanted to go in tonight, just because I didn't really know this until I want to say maybe in the last 12 months. It hasn't been that long, but the understanding of what the Fed is. I know you like to talk about that.
Yeah.
And why that's important. And I wanted to see if we could do some intro of content on that tonight, because that was fascinating to learn what that really is and how this all works.
Yeah. And that's something that so just to give you some context, I've been a financial advisor since I was 18. So I started selling mutual funds and term life insurance and stocks and bonds and 401ks. And it's very much in the, I call it now the retail vein of personal finance. Retail meaning it's what they're selling to Bob and Sue with 3 kids and a home, and they're in their mid 30s. And that's kind of what everyone does. So I was very indoctrinated and ingrained in that. I was a Dave Ramsey endorsed local provider for like 3 or 4 years. We were in 8 states. So I was like in finances deep, and I was doing it that method in a very like, I was into it. I had a very big business. We were thriving. And so when I sat down and learned about the Federal Reserve System, it was kind of all at once for me, right? So I had that guy that I mentioned was kind of my mentor. He had that little line that I always stuck with me. Like I always remembered, like, why did Chris say that? And since I was like probably 19 or 20, my best friend, his son was always like, Jerry, go read The Creature from Jekyll Island. And he never told me why or what it was about. And I was like, dude, I got so many books to read. Like, I don't have time.
Right.
And I don't think I would have been ready when I read it. Because when I sat down, I was probably 22, 23, maybe 24 years old. And I started like learning about how does the Federal Reserve work. And at that moment, I realized, A, I can no longer do the business I'm in anymore. Like, I just can't. And then B, like everything about everything is different. Like all of the, it's like the Matrix. Like I hate to use that because it's so cliche, but it's almost like that, you know?
Yeah.
So for me, like now when I share that with people, I'm very intentional to make sure they know A, there are solutions, and B, this is not like the riverhead, like the mouth of the river to get into conspiracy theories. Like we're not going to just nerd out and put our tinfoil hats on. Like it's a thing, definitely a thing. There are solutions, and here's what we're going to do about it.
Yep. Yeah, it's really interesting. And you can easily go off in different tangents with that, but to stay in the middle,
it gets weird fast.
Yeah,
because everyone in the conspiracy world all agrees on that, but there's this tangent of other conspiracies that all of us don't agree on. Is they assume like, oh, James knows about the Fed, he must also know about blah blah blah. And you're like, dude, that's off the deep end. I'm not. Yeah. I'm not on board for that one.
Yeah. I mean, well, in terms of the financial discussion, though, it's very fascinating because I don't think we get that kind of education in school or in college or even in your job at work. Like you just don't learn about that usually. You know? The normal financial education, I think, for most of us to some degree is you get a checking account, you might play with some credit cards and get some credit card debt. You get a 401k from your employer, you invest a lot of money in that, you buy a house, and then you retire and you cash out your 401k. Maybe you get a pension if you work in one of those companies, but maybe you do some real estate on the side, somehow. But that's about it, right? Like that's kind of the normal conversation you have with most people, right? But there's a whole lot more to it.
There is
more how money works and what you can do with it that you don't even know you can do with it.
Yeah. And I think it really like, the whole thing with the Federal Reserve really comes down to like, A, our money's not backed by anything. B, and I shouldn't even say that it is backed by something, it's backed by future taxation. Which is slavery. At the end of the day, like when I saw those dots connected, I was like, that is 100% slavery. Like me trading my time for money means that I am a slave to the Federal Reserve. I don't know who owns that place, but somebody's making money on it. And when I saw that, it really like drove home. Like I have to replace myself with assets, right? Like the trading time for money thing doesn't stop. But it doesn't have to be my time. It can be from my assets. And if I do that correctly, then I can incrementally remove myself from that equation. And that's really what wealth dynamics is all about, is when I learned that my business now is a direct response to that information. When I saw that, I gave away my financial advising business and I built from the ground up on, all right, how do people actually combat this thing? Even if they don't know what it is yet, because that's not always the first conversation I have with someone. They might be thinking more about, the bills happening in 2 weeks, right?
Right.
But it's still flowing in that direction of like, here's how you actually pull yourself out of that system so that you can have true freedom. In my opinion, if I can't do something because of money, I'm not free. If there's restriction because of a green dollar that's backed by nothing, I can't really say I'm free.
Yep. And the fact that you can actually create a system that will let you be free is pretty freaking cool.
It is. It's badass.
It's pretty badass. Yeah.
I wake up every day. I'm, man, this is just a dream.
And so you've been running this business for 8 years. You're married. You have kids?
Married, no kids yet. We've got a couple of dogs.
Cool. And you're in your mid 30s.
I just turned 28.
Last month,
so 2 months ago.
Not even 30 yet. Just listen to this, guys. This is incredible. You got an 8-year entrepreneur that hasn't even 30 yet. That's figured out incredible life lessons about how to manage wealth. That's pretty awesome, man. Good
Thank
for
you.
you.
Yeah.
Good for you. And it's awesome that you're paying it forward immediately to people, and you see change every day, which is phenomenal. So, where do you want to take this business, man? What's your big vision and your dream as an Ascent entrepreneur, as we like to call you?
Yeah. So my dream is pretty big. In the time I've been in the industry, I have seen literally no company actually help people. Like, it's always just a product, right? At the end of the day, it's it ends up in the hands of Merrill Lynch and Bank of America and Wells Fargo, and so there's these giant institutions that kind of control the entire distribution network of financial services, and my goal is to disrupt that. So, we will be, by the time I'm done with this, we will be the largest financial services firm in the country, by agent count and client count, and we're actually going to have a solution for people. So when I'm working with people, one of my first goals is once they're educated and they're tracking, we're going to get them accredited, meaning they're going to get $1 million net worth, excluding their primary residence value. Last year, we helped 8 people get there. 8 doesn't sound like a lot, but when you say 8 millionaires, that's that's unheard of. That's not a thing people do, right?
No.
So that's our goal, is we get people there so they can actually be unrestricted with their investing. A lot of people don't know, when you become accredited, there's other investments you don't get to know about until you become accredited. So, our goal is to get people there and then get them to the point where their passive income exceeds their expenses, savings, and taxes. And once that happens, that's where pop, they're free. They're out of the rat race. They're 100% on their own determinism with life and money. And then our goal from there is they should then be investing in their communities and the people around them to teach them the same habits and behaviors. So we will change the industry. That's 100% my intention and where I'm going. If you ever talk to me and you see that fire, that's what that is, and that's why I do what I do.
Yeah, no, I see it.
Yeah.
It's awesome, man. And your education, guys, if you've never seen Jerry teach before, I mean, he brings it. He's got great content. It's very structured as well, very well put together, and it's very easy to understand at the same time, which is not easy to do with numbers and this kind of talk tonight.
Yeah, so that's good to hear. I like hearing that feedback. It's always a question in my head on how easy is this to grasp.
Yep. Yeah, you got to break it down simple. You really do. For most of us, money, it has to be, right? Because if you can't make it simple, then it's hard to change.
Right.
100%. And some of the things that you're talking about tonight, it might seem for a lot of us to be very far-fetched in terms of, man, I don't know how I can even get there soon. But you have a system where you can incrementally get there over time, and it's actually very doable.
For sure. And it happens in phases. I was talking to a client today, and she's got quite a bit of debt to pay off. A lot of people do. And I love the fact that we're talking about this on your show, because I think that's the dirty little secret that all of us dealt with or deal with currently that no one talks about. And the only expert out there really addressing it is Dave Ramsey. And I think, in the entrepreneur community, a lot of times we get turned off by that, cut up the credit cards, live on beans and rice. So we kind of just write that message off.
Yeah.
But everyone else is saying use debt, use leverage, but they don't specify yes, use it, but for what?
Right.
So I meet a lot of people that have 6-figure credit card debt because they got funding for their business and it didn't work.
Yep.
And so I was talking to a lady today, and she had quite a bit of debt, and I was talking to her about okay, this is the phase. Right now, we're not even dealing with present time finances. We're dealing with past. Yeah. Debt is my past. I've got to get rid of that and deal with that and get up to present time. And that might take a year or 2 years or 3 years, but I shouldn't if I'm going out and trying to invest and do all this wealth building stuff in my future, and I still have my attention 90% of my past, it's not going to end good. And so it happens in these phases of let's handle these different segments of finances in a gradual order and the way that they're supposed to be handled. And it compounds. It feels like it takes a lot longer and it's a lot more work at first, but it speeds so much stuff up on the back end.
Yeah. That's really cool that you just said that. That's a nice catchphrase. You gotta rewind this and play that part. Focusing on the past versus focusing on the future and your wealth. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like you can't do both.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's
And,
cool.
and even like on investing, like I was talking to her, I said, hey, if we have $100,000 in debt, right? And that 100,000 in debt costs us $1,100 a month right now. Let's call it
Mhm.
1,000 just for easy math. If I pay that off, I make a 12% yield on my money. Meaning if I take 100% of that, times 12, and I divide that by my 12 months, that's a 12% yield at $1,000 a month. I might be able to find that as an investment, maybe. And if I do, it's not guaranteed.
Mhm.
Like this is for sure. It's not a maybe, it's guaranteed. Like, why wouldn't I do that deal first?
Yeah.
Um, and if I did that deal, like I'm handling my past, it's helping me now. So there's so much that just like
Mhm.
unlocks after I handle that.
Yep. Math. Simple math,
Hashtag
right?
math.
Hashtag math. And if we don't know math very well, I use my calculator on my phone all the
I
time.
do too. People are like, you must be a numbers whiz, and I'm like, I just understand the idea. The calculator does all the work. I'm still gonna count on my fingers sometimes.
That's so cool, man. So what's COVID been like for you? What have you been hearing in your conversations with business owners and entrepreneurs about money?
Yeah. So for me, it's kind of been interesting. When it first started happening, um, the market came down with it. The stock market came down with it. And so for my business, we started to see a lot of people that have been hearing what I've been saying for years now. And it was kind of like, oh shoot, he wasn't kidding. Right. We just lost 20% of our 401ks in a matter of one day.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of like, bittersweet. Like I hate it when I see people lose money, but a lot of people realize like, okay, this is not an investment I like, trust, understand. And so I'm going to make some changes. And so we were able to help a lot of people with that. What was kind of a blessing for me is none of my clients had to call and say, hey, I can't pay my bill. We're struggling. Like they're all saving money. They're all doing our sacred account. They're all saving money. I had clients texting me like, hey, this sucks, but I'm good for like 4 more months because of what we've been having them do for the last, however many months or years they've been working with us. So that's been a blessing. And one thing that I've seen that's just been concerning is how many companies haven't been able to keep open with like freaking 2 months of bills,
A lot.
right? It's insane. They're publicly
Yeah.
traded companies. Hertz, J.C. Penney's, like, come on, man. You're on the freaking stock market in the United States of America, and you can't stay open 2 months because you don't have cash.
Yep.
Just drives me nuts. And so I see a lot of that, and a lot of the SBA PPP loans. That's part of the side that's been frustrating for me. Is a lot of companies and small businesses and entrepreneurs, they've taken their attention off of customer acquisition, and it's 100% like I call it government cheese. Like I'm trying to get qualified for these loans and get this money. If you got it, great. Like no shame on you,
Yeah.
but that's not a business.
Right.
A business is I exchanged value with a customer and got revenue and made them happy, and then more people came.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Man, you're so right on the money about that. So elephant in the room, word that you've been using a couple times. What is a sacred account?
Sacred account. So it's whole life insurance.
Okay.
Now we use the word sacred account because it really is sacred. Like this is an account that I'm paying first. So it's sacred in that sense. It gets like the first part of my earnings.
Okay.
And then it's sacred in the sense that I'm only using this to either invest or pay off debt.
Okay.
Right. So it's not something that I'm going to pay for my vacation with. It's not something that I'm going to, spend on consumer goods. It's only stuff that's going to pay me. So it's sacred in that sense too. And it's really like at its basic foundation, it's what we talked about in the very beginning. It's a forced savings plan that happens automatically. And it goes into the life insurance, which is a totally different concept of like where people are putting their money and what happens when they put it there and all of the different bells and whistles with, a savings account versus a 401k versus life insurance. So it's something that really puts a person in a position where they can be in control, and they can also be using a lot of the concepts that are being used against them. They can start using for themselves instead.
Okay. I guess you got some buddies who are posting some stuff. So we got to check these out. Sacredaccount.com. Is that a place where we can go learn about that?
Yeah. So you can learn all about, there's a great video on there that kind of breaks it down. I drew a picture and you can watch me talk through as I drew the picture, and it's very simple on how the account works.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. We'll definitely have to check that out. So you mentioned you have a book, right? as
I
well?
do. Yeah. How to create wealth.
How to create wealth. Where can we find that?
So if you go to jerryfetta.com,
Mm-hmm.
um, just my first and last name.com, you can get a copy of it. The book is free. The shipping, I think, is like $7. We're in Alaska, so we can't cover your shipping
Come
for
on,
you,
man.
unfortunately. That's like the one, like, because there's a lot of these shipping where it's like, that's really the cost of the book. They're just calling it shipping. The
Uh-huh.
Alaska thing is one where people are like, okay, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's,
legit.
that's
You guys
legit.
have to pay for
Yeah.
shipping.
Yeah, yeah. That's great. That's great. That's so cool, man. So what's the focus of the company right now? What are you guys excited about for the rest of this year?
Oh, I lost you for a second there.
Oh, where's the focus of the company for the rest of this year? What are you excited about that you're doing right now?
So right now it's really continuing to serve our current clients, adding new clients in. We're very big on just making the process easier to follow, right? And so a lot of times, when something like this happens, where we have like COVID-19 and quarantines happening, people begin to focus more on their finances out of
Mm-hmm.
fear, usually.
Yep.
And if you look at, like, if you're like an economics guy, they're called deflationary indicators. When people start saving money and paying off debt, it's good for me personally. If I'm saving and paying off my debt, it's not good for the economy because I'm not spending and giving them my money.
That's right.
This is a time where people are starting to do deflationary activity of, I'm going to pay my debt down. I'm going to save. Savings rate is at an all-time high. Debt pay down is happening at a very high rate too. So what we're doing is we're really focusing with people on how do we make it easy for you to go step by step by step through this process. To be proactive with this newfound attention on, like, I need to get my finances better. How do I make it like more intentional and actually make it correct, instead of this fearful response that I might only do for the next 3 to 6 months until the election's done and everything is back to normal. Let's make it a lasting thing. Like, let's actually like follow this and do it for real.
Yep. Yep. It's a lifelong discipline, right?
It is. It's like working out, right? I'm not gonna just do it for 3 months because I'm not gonna have a heart attack anymore. Like, hopefully the habit sticks and I just always do it.
Yep. No, I'm with you, man. I mean, there's lots of seasons of life, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just got a new fitness coach again on Monday. So
yeah.
I got my buddy who I live on a lake. It's awesome. So you'd like that from coming from Alaska. I went across the lake today to get my buddy's got everything, and he's got a home gym in his garage. So I got some kettlebells, some heavy ones, and I'm like, man, it feels good to pull some weights again. Because in New Jersey, we haven't seen a gym open in, I don't know, 5 months or more.
I heard that. I have a buddy over there that's into bodybuilding, and all I see from him is frustrated posts about not going to the gym.
Yeah. I like to lift heavy stuff. It's fun. So when you can't do that, it's just, there's other good workouts, but there's nothing like lifting a bunch of iron. So
yeah. I did competitive bodybuilding all through high school and into my early 20s. So I totally feel you there. Like, it's hard to explain, but putting heavy things on your back and sitting down as many times as you can, like, it's just an accomplishment. You're done. You're like, damn, I did that.
That's right. It unlocks some cool chemicals in your body too, that it just feels good. It
does.
And it helps a lot. Weight resistance is good for your body. So
I've found with mindset too, like,
yeah,
there are places I've gone in the gym that I was later able to take with me in business that just, it's not a level playing field when you figure that out.
Yeah. What's it for you? I tend to have the best creative moments when I'm running or like I'm working out, or sometimes in the shower, but working out, it's almost like it's like this crazy creative space. What's it for you?
Mine has always been like right after I'm done with the gym, like immediately afterward. I think it's a lot of like the endorphins and stuff, and just I have like I'm not introverted. I've been doing things outside of my body with weights and running, and so I'm like thinking like out, like expansive, and so I think that's part of what it is. And then another time is for me usually when I'm done doing like personal development, like reading, studying, and my mental juices are kind of just flowing, and I've got concepts I've been working on. Like, usually that's another good time.
So I want to tie what you just said back into 10 minutes ago, because I think it's connected and it's really cool. is thinking forward, not backward. You got to deal with the past and get caught up to present, which I love that how you said that.
Yeah.
How would you recommend to the audience, like, what are some things you can do to really think forward and really let yourself sit there and really create and bring the future into now? Like, how do you do that? Or are there some rituals that you like to do for yourself with that kind of process?
Yeah. That's a really good question, and that's something that I think as a early entrepreneur, I kind of looked for the silver bullet with that. I think a lot of us do on like, how do I unlock mindset, and how do I get rid of like maybe stuff from my past that's holding me back, and how do I become more creative and manifest the future. I'm a very common sense guy, so I got into The Secret, I got into meditation, and it just, more power to you if that works. It's just not enough structure for me on like, do this for this long and this thing will happen, and then it's done and you can do the next thing. I'm not good if that's not the case.
Yeah.
So what I do is I actually I lead with action.
Yep.
Right. I will do things first, and out of necessity of the effects that I've caused, I'll have to create solutions moving forward. It's almost like a reverse with a boat. Like, I've created wake, but the wake is actually happening in front of me because all the stuff I'm doing, there's this wake, and I've got to figure out how do I go solve and handle these problems. And it's a commitment of like with my business, when I went full time in my business, I quit my pizza job, didn't have enough income, didn't have money saved. That was a wake of like, oh crap, next month is going to happen. I need to figure out what to do because I just quit my job. So then a lot of creativity kicked in. And so that's kind of how I handle it.
Yeah.
And I also am I'm very clear with myself on confronting the reality of what's happening around me. I don't dress up stories. I don't dress up circumstances, because I find when I do, that's when I'm hanging out in the past. I'm still having to make sense of what I really think happened when it really was a totally different way. And I've still got attention and energy back there justifying it and creating this facade. So I just black and white, this happened this way, and I'm fully just confronting it. And that way I don't have to think about it in the past.
That's powerful, man. That's powerful. You've learned a lot as a young person. It's really cool. It's really cool. What's one of the most powerful lessons you've learned in the last 6 months of 2020?
Man, there are a lot. So I've been quarantined down here in LA, right? And so my team, we're all down here, but we're not together. Like, we're quarantined in our separate rooms and doing the whole social distancing thing. And my company's stats are at an all-time high. Like, we already beat the entirety of 2019's revenue, and we did that by June. It's awesome, like, man. Insane, right?
Yeah.
And so that was a thing that I realized is like, it's possible. Like, circumstances don't matter. Like, if I want to create something, I can, and I will.
Yeah.
And that's been big. And so that was kind of a thing. And then another big one that I learned for me, which is just something I learned as I was thinking one day, is just nothing is the same, right? Like, there's a lot of 2008, 2020, a lot of comparisons. And so I kind of just had the realization that there are there's like nothing that's completely similar, and everything has a difference.
Yeah.
And that was very stabilizing for me because I have the ability to tell all differences. I can tell, this is different than that, and this is why. And so it was just very easy for me with that new thought of okay, cool. I can start to compare and contrast and see what is different, what is the same, and how do I act accordingly?
Well, definitely from a market perspective, totally different markets.
Yeah.
Totally different levers and things happening. From a business perspective, I actually use that a lot. I talk about those 2 years a lot because I started my career that year in 2008.
Wow. And I was in 10th grade.
Yeah. So there you go. So that was my first year in corporate, and I just picked the winner. I got lucky because all my friends that I graduated with lost their first job because all the companies crashed. I mean, they laid everybody off, or they disappeared. But I tell the story to my clients. I tell it all the time to people. Is the one thing that I learned about that year that I didn't realize at the time was a very powerful business lesson was, and really this should be an all the time thing. It's just kind of like you talk about the sacred account. but
Mhm.
we tend to let up and take the foot off the gas too easily
Yeah.
a lot of times. But we just made the decision, like, no, we are going to win in this situation, period.
Mhm.
So we're going to do whatever it takes. We're going to work really, really hard. We're going to roll up our sleeves. We're going to have this common vision. We're going to help each other, support each other, but we're going to have outcome-driven actions daily to moving this thing forward. And we
Yeah.
grew 600% in the next like 18 months or something like that.
That's huge.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, the odds were totally stacked against us, right? But we did it. And it's no different now. A lot of the successful business owners I like to follow share that message. It's like you're either going to work hard right now, or you're going to make less money.
Mhm.
And taking that high level of action is critical for your business any season. But especially now. So I love that you guys have focused on action, and you outperformed 2019 in your first 6 months. It's
Yeah.
awesome, man. It's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's really freaking cool. It's good. It's refreshing to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's definitely a mindset thing. I think it's a mindset thing. And I think it's also, it's an interesting season where I think we're different than 2008 is some industries and business models are not going to exist after COVID.
Yeah.
In 2008, that really wasn't the case. It was financial, strictly financial. If you were in leverage and doing bad things, you got spanked, you could go right back into business and be okay. Now if I'm a business where I have to be there, it's very difficult if I'm not allowed to be there. I have to figure out Zoom, like I have to figure out social distancing.
Yeah.
That's going to impact a lot of businesses. I think for the better. For me, anyways, it's been freeing. Like I don't have to be anywhere. I can make money from my laptop. That's a beautiful thing.
It is pretty awesome. I think for us, COVID was at first a really hard thing, but then immediately it became one of the best things that's ever happened because it helped us get focused and better on our businesses, and we've worked really hard, and we've made some major wins. But the family, just like spending time with family and really getting clear on what's important to you again.
Yeah.
And getting a chance to almost reset and redefine how you want to create your future. It's been really cool. So
yeah,
a lot of crazy stuff going on around us every day that we read about, see, and then it's like, man, I don't know what the heck all this is, but the chance to be with your, some of my mentors like Ed Milet talks about your movie, right? Your 4 or 5 key characters in your movie of your life. I mean, those are the people you should be, caring about the most with your energy and your focus and your time. So, being able to have that kind of balance again, if you want to call it that, is cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's awesome. And I love that we both have this viewpoint on it. Like, cause there's a lot of negativity and a lot of, victim mentality for lack of better terms. And I think that, just people watching this right now are probably as refreshed as you and I are to hear like 2 people that are like, hey, it sucks. Buck up, make it happen.
Yeah.
You'll win either way.
Well, what's cool about it, if you have the competitive mindset or, in an opportunistic mindset, is a lot of people got pushed back during this, and it sucks and it's sad. But at the same time, business is not fair. And it provides lots of opportunity if you want it. And right now there's so much opportunity to go advance your life. If you just take action and go for it.
Yeah.
Because there's not as much competition right now.
For sure.
So, this has been great. We've covered like all bases tonight, man. This was
all
good.
The bases.
we hit it in the park home run tonight.
There are no bases left.
There's no bases left. Unfortunately, man. I was saying this the other day. Baseball is like maybe my 3rd or 4th sport, but it's just weird not having baseball to watch right now.
Yeah.
Just a weird time.
I've never gotten into baseball. I'm like I can play sports. I have a lot of trouble watching them. Not that there's anything wrong with them. I just have trouble sitting still that long.
Yeah.
But it is weird. Like I always see, baseball, the NBA playoffs. Like it's just odd that none of that happened. It just got skipped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very strange. I'm hoping I'm a big Green Bay Packer fan. We've had season tickets since the '60s in our family, and I hope there's football.
Yeah.
We'll see.
There has to be. You know
Yeah.
what's hilarious though? I have a client, and if you guys are watching, I do not recommend doing this. He, for fun, he invests in sports betting, right? So there's no sports happening. So they are currently betting on the outcomes of video games.
Wow.
So they're playing the Lakers versus the Bulls, a couple nights ago. He's got 10 grand riding on it. I'm like, I hate it. I'm like, dude, don't even text me. I don't want to know about it. I'm not interested. That's just a dumb idea. And it's only like 10 grand. He's got a lot more than that. But I just thought that was incredible. Like, the human spirit of like play and like betting and all that stuff. Like, it'll happen either way. They're doing it with video games because we can't do it with sports. Hopefully sports
Are they
come
doing
back.
it like old school, like on NBA Jam kind of stuff?
It's like NBA, like 2K20 and
All right.
yeah, like it's actual, like we're going to have a PlayStation tournament and bet on the outcomes.
That's wild. That's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I even see ESPN taking footage from random people that are filming stuff, and they're just like, "Here's our content for today." It's crazy. Well, Jerry, such a pleasure, man, to have you on this show. We're gonna have to have you back again. This was great. Where can people, follow you and find you?
So if you check me out on Facebook, Instagram, that's probably where I post the most. And I always like to let people know, like I am one of the guys, if you message me, you'll always get a response back. So if you got questions, hit me up. I'm always happy to talk, help out wherever I can.
Awesome, man. Well, God bless you. Keep doing what you're doing. It's great. And we'll see you again soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. See you guys.